The rain drummed against the boutique windows as Jessica Chen stood before the saleswoman, clutching a princess dress she could barely afford. Her daughter Barbara's 6th birthday was tomorrow, and this dress, with its delicate pink tulle and silver embroidery, would make her little girl's eyes light up like stars. Jessica had saved for 3 months from her meager grocery allowance, hiding coins in an old tea tin beneath the kitchen sink. "I'll take it," Jessica said quietly, her fingers trembling as she reached for her wallet. The transaction complete, she stepped into the Seoul evening, the shopping bag pressed protectively against her chest. The dress cost more than she should have spent, but Barbara deserved something beautiful. After all the hand-me-downs and second-hand clothes, after all the times her mother-in-law had sneered at her daughter's appearance, Jessica wanted this one perfect moment. The Hayes family estate loomed before her as she approached, its traditional Korean architecture imposing against the darkening sky. 7 years ago, she had walked through those gates as a bride, foolishly believing love would be enough. 7 years of cooking, cleaning, enduring insults, and watching her husband Louis grow more distant with each passing season. Jessica pushed open the heavy wooden door to find her mother-in-law, Mrs. Hayes, standing in the entrance hall with her arms crossed. At 63, the woman's face was sharp as broken glass, her eyes constantly judging, constantly finding fault. "What took you so long?" Mrs. Hayes demanded, snatching the shopping bags from Jessica's hands. "I sent you out 2 hours ago to buy clothes for Eric. Where are they?" "Eric's clothes are in this bag," Jessica said, lifting the larger bag. "The other one is for Barbara. Tomorrow is her birthday, so I bought her a dress." Mrs. Hayes pulled out the pink princess dress, her expression souring. "How much did this cost?" "Mom, it's Barbara's birthday gift. I saved the money myself from." "From what?" "Every penny in this household belongs to the Hayes family." Mrs. Hayes thrust the dress toward her. "Return it. Now." Jessica's heart plummeted. "But the birthday is tomorrow. Barbara has been talking about wearing a princess dress for weeks. Please, I earned this money doing extra work online late at night. It didn't come from the household budget." "Extra work?" Mrs. Hayes' laugh was bitter. "You think you can have secrets in my house? Everything you earn while living under this roof belongs to us. Besides, children grow fast. That expensive dress will be too small in 3 months. Return it and buy something practical." Jessica felt tears burning behind her eyes but refused to let them fall. She had learned years ago that crying only made Mrs. Hayes crueler. "Mom, please. Barbara never asks for anything. Just this once. Barbara, Barbara, Barbara. All you ever think about is that useless girl." Mrs. Hayes threw the dress onto the floor. "If you had given my son a boy, perhaps we could afford to indulge in such nonsense. But you couldn't even do that simple thing right, could you?" The front door opened and Louis Hayes entered, his expensive suit perfectly tailored, his hair styled with precision. At 32, he was still handsome in that polished way that had first attracted Jessica when they met at university. But his eyes had grown cold over the years, especially when he looked at her. Behind him toddled 3-year-old Eric, Mrs. Hayes' late-in-life miracle child. Jessica's father-in-law had died 4 years ago, but not before leaving his wife pregnant at 48. The entire situation was bizarre, but Jessica had learned not to question anything in the Hayes household. "Daddy!" Eric ran to Louis, who scooped up his half-brother with genuine affection. It stung every time Jessica watched her husband show more warmth to his mother's child than to his own daughter. "How's my little brother?" Louis asked, tickling Eric until the boy squealed with laughter. "Louis, tell your wife she can't waste money on frivolous things," Mrs. Hayes said, nudging the discarded dress with her foot. Louis glanced at the dress, then at Jessica. "Mom's right. Barbara grows too fast for expensive clothes. Why would you waste money like that?" "It's her birthday tomorrow," Jessica said softly. I thought just this once. You thought wrong. Louis set Eric down and loosened his tie. I have enough stress at work without coming home to financial arguments. Return the dress. That's final. Jessica bent down to retrieve the dress from the floor, smoothing its wrinkled fabric. As she did, 6-year-old Barbara appeared at the top of the stairs, her eyes wide and hopeful. Mommy, is that my princess dress? Barbara's voice was small, tentative, as if afraid to want anything too much. Barbara, go to your room, Mrs. Hayes commanded sharply. But Grandma, I just wanted to. Now! Mrs. Hayes' voice cracked like a whip. Barbara's lip trembled, but she turned and ran back upstairs. Jessica heard the soft sound of her daughter's bedroom door closing and felt something inside her chest fracture a little more. I'll return it tomorrow, Jessica whispered, folding the dress carefully back into its bag. You'll return it tonight, Mrs. Hayes said. The store is open for another hour. Eric needs his dinner, and I won't have you lounging around when there's work to be done. Jessica looked at Louis, hoping for some small mercy, some sign of the man she had fallen in love with a decade ago. But he was already scrolling through his phone, disengaged from the entire scene. Yes, Mom, Jessica said quietly. I'll go now. She climbed the stairs to check on Barbara, finding her daughter curled up on her small bed, hugging a stuffed rabbit that was missing one ear. The room was sparse compared to Eric's, which overflowed with toys and books and every imaginable luxury. Mommy, I'm sorry I came downstairs, Barbara whispered. Jessica sat on the edge of the bed, stroking her daughter's silky black hair. You did nothing wrong, my darling. Nothing at all. Will I still get a princess dress? Jessica's heart shattered. She wanted to promise yes, wanted to say she would move mountains to give her daughter this one small joy. But she had learned not to make promises she couldn't keep in the Hayes household. We'll see, baby. Mommy will do her best. It's okay if I don't get one, Barbara said with a maturity no 6-year-old should possess. I know Grandma doesn't like spending money on me. Jessica pulled her daughter close, breathing in the sweet scent of her shampoo. Listen to me, Barbara Chen. You are precious and valuable and loved. Don't ever let anyone make you feel otherwise. Even though I'm not a boy. The question landed like a punch to Jessica's stomach. She had tried so hard to shield Barbara from the family's prejudice, but children heard everything, understood more than adults realized. Especially because you're exactly who you are, Jessica said firmly. Being a girl doesn't make you less important or less worthy. You are my greatest treasure. Barbara hugged her tighter. I love you, Mommy. I love you too, my darling girl. More than anything in this world. After settling Barbara with a book, Jessica made her way back downstairs. Louis had disappeared into his study, and Mrs. Hayes was in the kitchen, clattering pots and pans with pointed irritation to show Jessica should have been the one cooking. Jessica grabbed the shopping bag and her keys. The boutique was across town, and if she hurried, she could make it before closing time. As she headed for the door, Louis emerged from his study. His phone pressed to his ear. No, tonight won't work, he was saying to someone. His voice taking on a warmth she never heard when he spoke to her. Tomorrow. Yes, I'll meet you there. I'm looking forward to it too. He ended the call and nearly walked past Jessica without acknowledgement. Louis, she called softly. Who was that? His eyes flashed with irritation. A business contact. Why? You sounded very friendly. Are you seriously questioning me right now? After the scene you caused about that dress? He moved closer, his voice dropping to a harsh whisper. I work 14-hour days trying to keep this family afloat. The company is facing serious financial challenges, and I don't need you adding to my stress with your jealousy and suspicions. I wasn't accusing you of anything. I just nothing. Go return that dress and stop creating problems where none exist. He brushed past her, his cologne expensive and unfamiliar. She didn't remember him owning that scent before. The boutique was nearly empty when Jessica arrived, the saleswoman's expression souring the moment she recognized her. Returns must be made within 24 hours with tags attached and receipt provided, the woman said coldly before Jessica could even speak. Yes, I have all of that. Jessica placed the bag on the counter, her hands shaking slightly. I'd like to return this dress, please. The saleswoman examined the dress with suspicious thoroughness, as if searching for any reason to deny the return. Finally, with obvious reluctance, she processed the refund. You know, it's customers like you who make retail difficult, the woman muttered. Buying expensive items you clearly can't afford, then returning them. It affects our sales numbers. Jessica felt heat rising in her cheeks. She wanted to explain about Barbara's birthday, about saving for months, about just wanting one special thing for her daughter. But pride kept her silent. She didn't owe this stranger any explanations. As Jessica turned to leave, she nearly collided with a tall man entering the store. He reached out to steady her, and their eyes met. For a moment, something flickered in his expression, recognition or surprise or something else entirely. I apologize, he said in perfect Korean with a slight American accent. Are you all right? I'm fine, thank you. Jessica hurried past him and out into the night. Behind her, she heard the saleswoman's tone change entirely. Mr. Harris, what an honor. We received the samples you sent. The craftsmanship is extraordinary. But Jessica was already gone, walking through the rain that had started again, clutching her empty shopping bag and feeling the weight of failure pressing down on her shoulders. When she returned to the Hayes house, dinner was already underway. Mrs. Hayes, Lewis, and Eric were seated at the table, eating premium Korean beef barbecue that filled the house with savory smoke. Barbara sat in the corner with a bowl of plain rice and wilted vegetables. There you are, Mrs. Hayes said without looking up. Since you took so long, we started without you. There's rice in the cooker. Jessica looked at the spread of expensive meat, fresh seafood, and elaborate side dishes, then at her daughter's meager portion. The contrast was deliberate, cruel. Barbara, come sit with me, Jessica said quietly. We'll eat together. She already ate, Mrs. Hayes said. She can go to her room now. She's had 3 bites of rice, Mom. She needs proper dinner. Are you questioning how I feed the children in my household? Mrs. Hayes set down her chopsticks with sharp precision. Perhaps if you had been here to cook instead of wasting time at stores, things would be different. Lewis continued eating, saying nothing. His silence an endorsement of his mother's cruelty. Jessica made 2 bowls of rice and added some of the leftover vegetables from the refrigerator. She and Barbara ate in the kitchen, away from the main table, away from the judgment and contempt. Mommy, why does Grandma not like us? Barbara asked between bites. Jessica didn't know how to answer truthfully without damaging her daughter further. Some people have trouble showing love, sweetheart. It doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you. Eric gets all the good food. I know, baby. But we have each other, and that's worth more than any fancy meal. Barbara considered this seriously. I'd rather have you than Korean beef anyway. Jessica smiled despite everything, pulling her daughter close. That's good because you're stuck with me forever. Later that night, after Barbara was asleep and the house had fallen quiet, Jessica sat alone in the small room she shared with Lewis. He hadn't come to bed yet, likely working late in his study or more probably talking on the phone with whoever had made his voice go soft earlier. She pulled out her laptop, the one she used for her secret freelance translation work. Late at night, after everyone was asleep, Jessica translated documents from Korean to English and vice versa for international companies. It was how she had saved money for Barbara's dress, working until her eyes burned and her back ached. The money wasn't much, but it was hers. Or at least, she had thought it was until Mrs. Hayes declared otherwise. Her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "This is Frank Chen. I apologize for the intrusion, but I need to speak with you urgently regarding a family matter. Please call when convenient." Jessica frowned at the message. Frank Chan had been her father's assistant before everything fell apart, before her mother died and her father brought his mistress into their home when Jessica was only 16. She had left that life behind, changed her phone number, cut all ties with the right family empire her father controlled. She deleted the message without responding. Some doors once closed needed to stay that way. The next morning, Barbara woke with quiet excitement, her birthday morning bringing a small smile to her face despite knowing there would be no celebration, no cake, no presents except whatever small thing Jessica could secretly arrange. "Happy birthday, my darling," Jessica whispered, pulling her daughter close. "You're 6 years old now. My beautiful, smart, wonderful girl." "Thank you, Mommy." Barbara hugged her tight. "Can we have cake? We'll see what we can do." Downstairs, Mrs. Hayes was already barking orders. "Jessica, Eric needs breakfast. And there's laundry piling up. And the floors need mopping. What have you been doing all morning?" It was 6:30 in the morning. Jessica made breakfast for everyone, cleaned the kitchen, started the laundry, and tried to find a moment to call the small bakery downtown to order a modest birthday cake. But every time she reached for her phone, Mrs. Hayes appeared with another task, another demand, another criticism. Louis left for work without saying goodbye to Barbara, without acknowledging it was his daughter's birthday. By noon, Jessica was exhausted and no closer to arranging any celebration. Barbara sat quietly doing a puzzle, asking for nothing, expecting nothing, breaking Jessica's heart with her learned resignation. Mrs. Hayes appeared in the doorway, dressed for going out. "I'm taking Eric shopping for new clothes. We'll be back in a few hours." "Can Barbara come?" Jessica asked, knowing the answer but unable to stop herself from trying. "Eric needs clothes that fit properly. It's not a playdate." Mrs. Hayes adjusted her expensive handbag. "Use the time to clean Eric's room. It's a disaster." After they left, Jessica called the bakery and ordered the smallest, cheapest cake they had, to be picked up at 5 o'clock. Then she sat down with Barbara and pulled out a small wrapped package she had hidden in her closet. "I know it's not a princess dress," Jessica said as Barbara carefully unwrapped the gift. "But I hope you like it." Inside was a simple silver necklace with a small heart pendant. Jessica had bought it years ago before she was married, and had been saving it for the right moment. Barbara's eyes went wide. "It's beautiful, Mommy. Can I wear it now?" "Of course." Jessica fastened the necklace around her daughter's neck, watching how the small heart caught the light. "This heart represents my love for you. Whenever you wear it, remember that you are cherished beyond measure." "I'll wear it every day," Barbara promised solemnly. "Even when I'm old like Grandma." Jessica laughed despite everything. "Even when you're old like Grandma." They spent the afternoon together, just the two of them, reading stories and playing games and pretending the world consisted only of their small bubble of safety and love. For a few hours, Jessica could almost forget the prison her life had become. At 4:30 Jessica's phone rang. It was Louis. "I need you to come pick me up," he said without preamble. "I'm at the Golden Lotus Hotel. Bring the car." "Louis, it's Barbara's birthday. I ordered a cake and I need to." "This is important, Jessica. Business matters that affect our entire family. The cake can wait an hour. But I have to pick it up by 5 or. Figure it out." He ended the call. Jessica stared at her phone, frustration and anger and helplessness warring inside her. Barbara looked up from her book, reading her mother's expression with the accuracy of a child who had learned to survive by understanding adult moods. "It's okay, Mommy. We can have cake later." "No, sweetheart. You deserve your birthday cake on your actual birthday." Jessica made a decision. Get your shoes. We're going together. They took the old scooter, Barbara holding tight to Jessica's waist as they navigated Seoul's early evening traffic. The Golden Lotus Hotel was in the expensive Gangnam district, its gleaming facade intimidating. Jessica had never been there before, had never had reason to visit such a luxurious establishment. The valet looked at her scooter with barely concealed disdain. Jessica ignored him, taking Barbara's hand as they entered the palatial lobby. Stay close to me, Jessica instructed, feeling decidedly out of place in her simple clothes among the elegantly dressed hotel guests. She called Louis again. I'm in the lobby. Where are you? Room 1847. Come up. Something in his tone made Jessica's stomach clench. Louis, why are you in a hotel room? I thought this was a business meeting. Just come up, Jessica. Don't make a scene. Barbara tugged at her hand. Mommy, can we go? This place is scary. Jessica wanted to leave, wanted to take her daughter and run far away. But she needed the car to pick up the cake, and Louis had the keys. The elevator ride to the 18th floor felt interminable. When they reached room 1847, Jessica knocked. Barbara pressed against her side. Louis opened the door wearing nothing but a hotel bathrobe, his hair damp from a recent shower. Behind him, Jessica could see a woman's designer purse on the bed, expensive champagne on ice, rose petals scattered across the floor. And then the woman emerged from the bathroom, wearing a silk robe that matched Louis's, her makeup perfect, her smile triumphant. Karen Park, Jessica's former university classmate, the girl who had always competed with her for top grades, who had resented Jessica's intelligence, who had once told everyone that Jessica only succeeded because she slept with professors. Jessica, Karen said with mock surprise. What an unexpected visit. Did you bring your daughter to watch? Jessica felt the world tilt. Louis, what is this? It's exactly what it looks like, Louis said, no shame in his voice, only annoyance at being interrupted. Karen and I have been seeing each other. She's going to invest in my company. We were just celebrating the partnership. Celebrating? Jessica's voice came out strangled. It's your daughter's birthday. You asked me to pick you up from your affair on Barbara's birthday. Don't be dramatic, Louis said. I didn't ask you to come to the room. You could have waited in the lobby. Barbara began to cry softly, understanding enough to know something terrible was happening. Jessica picked her up, her daughter's legs wrapping around her waist like when she was a toddler. How long? Jessica asked, proud that her voice remained steady. Does it matter? Karen said, examining her perfectly manicured nails. He's with me now. Honestly, Jessica, did you really think someone like Louis would stay with a woman like you forever? You couldn't even give him a son. Get out, Louis said to Jessica. Karen and I need to discuss business details. Business details. Jessica laughed, a sound devoid of humor. Is that what we're calling it? I won't discuss this with you right now, especially not in front of the child, Louis said. Take the car keys. They're in my jacket pocket. Go home. We'll talk later. Jessica wanted to scream, to rage, to tear the hotel room apart. But Barbara was crying against her shoulder, and her daughter's pain mattered more than her own. She grabbed the keys from Louis's jacket without another word and left, Barbara's sobs muffled against her neck. In the elevator, a concerned elderly woman touched Jessica's arm. Are you all right, dear? Is your daughter hurt? We're fine, Jessica lied. Thank you for asking. They weren't fine. Nothing was fine. Everything Jessica had sacrificed, every humiliation she had endured, every piece of herself she had surrendered to try to make her marriage work, had been for nothing. Louis had never loved her. Perhaps he never had. She drove to the bakery in a daze, arriving just as they were about to close. The small cake she had ordered looked pathetic compared to the elaborate confections in the display case, but it would have to do. When they returned home, Mrs. Hayes and Eric were back, the living room overflowing with shopping bags full of expensive children's clothes. "Where have you been?" Mrs. Hayes demanded. "Dinner isn't prepared. Eric is hungry." Jessica set down the cake box. "I was picking up Barbara's birthday cake." Mrs. Hayes' eyes narrowed. "After I specifically told you to return that dress, you went and spent more money on a cake? It's her birthday. Every day is someone's birthday somewhere. That doesn't mean we throw money away on unnecessary celebrations." Mrs. Hayes opened the box and made a sound of disgust. "This looks like something from a discount bakery. You've embarrassed the Hayes family with your cheapness." Jessica felt something inside her finally snap. 7 years of abuse, 7 years of watching her daughter be treated as less than, 7 years of her husband's indifference culminating in this moment when even a cheap birthday cake was too much to ask. "Then don't eat it," Jessica said quietly, dangerously. "This cake is for Barbara. No one else needs to touch it." Mrs. Hayes' hand shot out and slapped Jessica across the face. "How dare you speak to me that way in my own house?" Barbara screamed. Eric started crying. And Jessica stood there, her cheek burning, tasting blood where her tooth had cut her inner lip, and realized she was done. "Mommy, your face," Barbara whispered, touching Jessica's reddening cheek with gentle fingers. "I'm okay, baby. Let's go to our room." "You're not going anywhere," Mrs. Hayes said. "You're making dinner for this family right now." "No," Jessica said simply. "I'm not." She took Barbara upstairs, locking their bedroom door behind them. Her hands shook as she lit the single candle on the small cake, her voice breaking as she sang happy birthday while her daughter tried to smile through her tears. They ate cake sitting on the floor, just the two of them, while Mrs. Hayes pounded on the door demanding Jessica come out and fulfill her duties. Eventually the pounding stopped. Eventually the house grew quiet. And Jessica held her daughter close and made a decision that would change everything. That night, after Barbara fell asleep clutching her new necklace, Jessica finally responded to Frank Chen's message. "I need to know everything about my father's health and the state of Right Group. And I need you to do something for me. Something that will change the course of several lives." Frank's response came within minutes. "I've been waiting for this call for 7 years, Miss Wright. When can we meet?" "Tomorrow morning. Early. Before anyone else is awake. I'll send a car." Jessica looked at her sleeping daughter, at the half-eaten birthday cake, at the locked door that separated them from the family that had never been a family at all. Tomorrow, everything would begin to change. But tonight, she would stay in this moment a little longer, this last night of being powerless, of being the woman everyone thought they could dismiss and discard and destroy. Tomorrow, Jessica Chen would remember she had once been someone else entirely. Tomorrow, Jessica Wright would finally come home. Frank Chen arrived at dawn in a black Mercedes that looked completely out of place in the Hayes family's modest neighborhood. Jessica had woken early, dressed in her best clothes, which weren't saying much after years of being told not to waste money on herself. "Miss Wright," Frank said when she opened the door, his eyes suspiciously bright. "You look exactly like your mother." "Please don't," Jessica said softly. "I'm not ready for sentimentality yet." "Of course." Frank's expression became professional. "We have much to discuss." They drove to a private office building Jessica had never seen, taking an elevator to the top floor where Frank had apparently maintained a secret headquarters for years, waiting for her return. "Your father's health has been declining rapidly," Frank explained once they were settled in his office. "The cancer has spread. The doctors give him perhaps 6 months." Jessica felt a complex wash of emotions. Anger, grief, relief, guilt, all tangled together in a knot she couldn't untie. "Does he want to see me?" "More than anything. But he respects your choice. He knows what he did to you, and your mother was unforgivable." "It was." Jessica looked out the window at Seoul's skyline, glittering in the early morning light. Does he know about the Hayes family? About how they've treated Barbara and me? He had you investigated 5 years ago. Not to intrude, he said, but to make sure you were safe and cared for. When he learned the truth, it took 3 of his best men to keep him from going to that house and dragging you out himself. Despite everything, Jessica felt tears threatening. Why didn't he? Because you were the one who left. He felt you had to be the one to decide to come back. Jessica stood abruptly, pacing the office. I want right group. All of it. I want complete control. It's already yours, Frank said, pulling out a legal folder. Your father transferred majority shares to you 2 years ago, to be held in trust until you claimed them. He knew eventually you would need them, would realize your worth. The lawyers have been waiting. And the company. What's the current situation? Frank's smile was grim. Right Group is the world's largest fashion and textile conglomerate. We have partnerships with every major brand, we own factories in 12 countries, and we're worth approximately $43 billion. You are one of the wealthiest women in Asia, Miss Wright. You just didn't know it. Jessica sat down heavily. $43 billion. While she had been scraping together grocery money and enduring Mrs. Hayes' abuse over every penny, she had been worth billions. I want something else, Jessica said. Louis Hayes' company is failing. I want you to ensure it fails completely unless he accepts our terms. And I want Karen Park's investment in his company blocked. Can you do that? We've already begun the process. Karen Park's wealth comes from her family's real estate holdings, which depend heavily on loans from banks we control. A few strategic phone calls, and her promised investment will evaporate. Good. And I want one more thing. The Hayes family believes Right Group's CEO personally selected Louis for a partnership. I want that partnership invitation to remain in place. I want him to think he's succeeding. And then I want to take it away myself. Frank's smile widened. Brilliant. When do you want to assume control officially? Today. Right now. But no one can know yet. Not until I'm ready. Your father will be thrilled. But Miss Wright, may I ask what you plan to do about your marriage? Jessica thought of Louis in that hotel room, of Karen's triumphant smile, of Barbara's tears. I plan to end it. But on my terms when I'm ready. First, I need to secure my daughter's future. I need to make sure Barbara is protected and knows her worth before I destroy her father's world. A wise approach. Though if I may say so, that man doesn't deserve the consideration. This isn't about what he deserves. It's about what Barbara needs. Frank nodded. Your mother would be proud of you. She always said you had a steel core beneath your gentle exterior. Jessica's throat tightened. I miss her every day. She never stopped fighting for you, you know. Even at the end, she made your father promise to watch over you, to make sure you always had a way out if you needed it. Then I suppose I'm finally taking that way out. For the next 3 hours, Frank brought Jessica up to speed on Right Group's operations, introduced her to key executives via video conference, and began the process of officially installing her as CEO. The company's board, who had been waiting years for this moment, welcomed her unanimously. By noon, Jessica Chen had become Jessica Wright, CEO of a global empire, one of the most powerful businesswomen in the world. And no one in the Hayes household had any idea. When Jessica returned home that afternoon, Mrs. Hayes was entertaining friends in the living room, bragging about her successful elder son and his important business dealings. Jessica, finally, Mrs. Hayes called out. Come make tea for my guests, and take Barbara somewhere else. She's being disruptive. Barbara wasn't being disruptive. She was sitting quietly in the corner reading a book, as she always did, trying to make herself invisible. Actually, I need to take Barbara out for a few hours, Jessica said calmly. We have an appointment. An appointment? With whom? You can't just take off whenever you please. My guests need refreshments. Your guests can make their own tea, Jessica said, taking Barbara's hand. Come on, sweetheart. We're going shopping. Mrs. Hayes sputtered with outrage, but Jessica was already leading Barbara out the door. She felt lighter than she had in years, powerful, free, herself for the first time since walking into this house. Mommy, where are we really going? Barbara asked as they got into the Mercedes that Frank had assigned to Jessica, complete with a driver. We're going shopping for real this time, Jessica said. And not just for clothes. We're going to buy you everything you've ever wanted. Barbara's eyes went wide. But won't Grandma be angry? Grandma doesn't get to be angry anymore, Jessica said, surprising herself with how good the words felt. From now on, you and I make our own choices. They spent the afternoon at Seoul's most exclusive children's boutique, where sales staff treated them like royalty once they realized Jessica was willing to buy without asking prices. Barbara tried on dress after dress, her joy infectious, her smile so bright Jessica wanted to capture it and keep it forever. The pink princess dress from yesterday was still available. Jessica bought it, along with 10 other dresses, shoes, accessories, and toys that made Barbara squeal with delight. Mommy, this is too much, Barbara said, though she couldn't stop touching the soft fabrics, the sparkly shoes, the beautiful things she had never dreamed she could have. It's not nearly enough, Jessica said. But it's a start. She also stopped at a jewelry store and bought Barbara a simple gold bracelet with her name engraved in English and Korean. So you never forget who you are, Jessica explained. Barbara, right. You carry both our names now. You're part of my family legacy. But I'm Barbara Hayes, Barbara said, confused. You're whoever you choose to be, Jessica said. And I think right suits you better. They returned home laden with shopping bags, Barbara practically glowing with happiness. Mrs. Hayes took one look at them and exploded. What is all this? Where did you get money for these things? Did you steal from my purse? I used my own money, Jessica said calmly. Your own money. You don't have any money. Everything you have comes from the Hayes family. Louis emerged from his study, his expression dark. He had been distant since yesterday's incident at the hotel, avoiding Jessica's eyes, acting as if nothing had happened. What's going on? He demanded. Your wife went on a shopping spree with money that doesn't belong to her, Mrs. Hayes said. Look at this extravagance. That girl doesn't need all this. Actually, I do, Barbara said quietly, with surprising confidence for a 6-year-old. Mommy says I deserve nice things too. Just like Eric. You are not like Eric, Mrs. Hayes snapped. Eric is a boy, the heir to our family line. You're just a... Be very careful what you say next, Jessica interrupted, her voice soft but carrying an edge that made everyone pause. Because I promise you will regret it. Louis stepped forward. Jessica, where did this money come from? I need to know right now. Why? Worried I'm doing something as immoral as sleeping with someone in a hotel room? Mrs. Hayes gasped. What is she talking about? Nothing, Louis said quickly. She's being dramatic as usual. Am I? Jessica turned to Mrs. Hayes. Yesterday when your son asked me to pick him up, do you know where he was? He was at the Golden Lotus Hotel with Karen Park, wearing nothing but a bathrobe, celebrating their business partnership. Mrs. Hayes looked between Jessica and Louis, her expression calculating rather than shocked. So what if he was? Karen Park comes from a wealthy family. She can actually help our business. What can you contribute except complaints and a useless daughter? The words shouldn't have hurt anymore, but they still did. Jessica had known for years that her mother-in-law despised her, but hearing it stated so baldly, so carelessly, still felt like a physical blow. Mom, Louis said, though Jessica couldn't tell if he was shocked by his mother's cruelty or just annoyed at having his affair exposed. Don't mom me, Mrs. Hayes said. I've been telling you for years to divorce this woman. She's brought nothing but bad luck to our family. No son, no money, no connections worth having. Karen Park could give you all of those things. Then perhaps you should marry Karen Park yourself, Jessica said. Since you're so enamored with her qualifications. How dare you speak to me that way? Mrs. Hayes moved toward Jessica, hand raised to strike. But this time, Jessica caught her wrist before the blow could land. Touch me again, and I will have you arrested for assault. I promise you I can make that happen. Something in Jessica's eyes must have convinced Mrs. Hayes she was serious because the older woman stepped back, shocked into silence. Louis, I want a divorce, Jessica said clearly, her voice steady. We both know this marriage is over. You want Karen, your mother wants me gone. And I want my daughter to grow up in an environment where she's not treated like garbage. Let's make this easy for everyone. Divorce. Louis laughed, but it sounded nervous. Jessica, you're overreacting. So I made a mistake. Men do that sometimes. It doesn't mean we need to end our marriage. You've been having an affair with my former classmate in a hotel room on our daughter's birthday. And when I caught you, your only concern was that I might interrupt your business meeting. This isn't a mistake, Louis. This is who you are. Fine, Louis said, his expression hardening. You want a divorce. You'll get one. But don't expect anything from me. You signed a prenuptial agreement. You'll leave this marriage with exactly what you brought into it. Nothing. I'm fine with that. You can't take Barbara, Mrs. Hayes interjected. A child needs a father, needs a proper home. Barbara is my daughter. She comes with me. We'll see what a judge says about that, Louis threatened. I have money, connections, lawyers. You have nothing. You're a housewife with no job, no income, no prospects. What judge is going to give you custody? Jessica smiled, and it was not a pleasant expression. You might be surprised. Don't act so confident, Mrs. Hayes sneered. Without the Hayes family, you're nobody. You'll be living in a tiny apartment, struggling to feed yourself and that girl. Is that really what you want? To drag your daughter into poverty because of your pride? My pride. Jessica's voice rose for the first time. I have endured 7 years of abuse from you. 7 years of insults, of being treated like a servant in what was supposed to be my home. 7 years of watching you favor your precious Eric over my daughter as if she was worth nothing. And you dare talk to me about pride? You've had a roof over your head, food to eat, security, Mrs. Hayes countered. That's more than many women have. But you're so ungrateful, you can't see how good you've had it. Good. Jessica almost laughed. You slapped me yesterday. On my daughter's birthday. Because I bought her a cake. And you think I should be grateful? Louis shifted uncomfortably. You should have handled things better with Mom. She's elderly and set in her ways. You're younger, more flexible. You should have been more accommodating. Accommodating. Jessica tasted the word. Is that what you call it when a grown man watches his mother abuse his wife and does nothing? When a father ignores his daughter's birthday? When a husband flaunts his affair and expects his wife to just accept it? I didn't flaunt anything. You showed up uninvited. You asked me to pick you up. You gave me the hotel's address. I said pick me up, not come to my room. That was your choice. The gaslighting was so blatant, so shameless, that Jessica felt almost admiration for the audacity of it. You know what? This conversation is pointless. I'll have my lawyer contact you about the divorce proceedings. Come on, Barbara. We're leaving. Leaving where? Mrs. Hayes demanded. You can't just walk out. You have responsibilities here. My only responsibility is to my daughter. Everything else ends now. Jessica took Barbara's hand and headed for the stairs to pack their things. If you leave, don't think you can come back. Mrs. Hayes called after them. Once you walk out that door, you're dead to this family. Jessica paused, looking back. Mrs. Hayes, I was never alive to this family. I was just a convenient servant who made the mistake of thinking service would earn love. I won't make that mistake again." In their bedroom, Jessica pulled out 2 suitcases and began throwing their belongings inside. She had so few things after 7 years of being told not to waste money on herself. Barbara had even less, except for the new clothes they had bought today. "Mommy, where are we going?" Barbara asked, watching the packing with wide eyes. "Somewhere safe. Somewhere we'll be treated with respect and kindness. Will Daddy come visit?" Jessica's heart broke at the hope in her daughter's voice. Despite everything, Barbara still loved her father, still wanted his attention and approval. "I don't know, baby. Would you like him to?" Barbara thought seriously about this. "I want a daddy who loves me. But I don't think the daddy downstairs is that daddy." The wisdom of children was sometimes devastating in its clarity. "You're right," Jessica said gently. "The daddy downstairs has forgotten how to love properly. But that's his loss, not yours. You are perfectly lovable, perfectly wonderful, exactly as you are. Will we see Grandma and Eric anymore? Maybe. But not like before. Not in a way where they can hurt us." "Good," Barbara said with a firmness that made Jessica proud. "I don't like when they hurt us." They finished packing quickly. Jessica took one last look at the room where she had spent 7 miserable years, where she had cried herself to sleep countless nights, where she had slowly lost pieces of herself while trying to become what the Hayes family wanted. She felt no nostalgia, no regret. Only relief that this chapter was finally ending. Downstairs, Mrs. Hayes had gathered reinforcements. Several neighbors stood in the living room, summoned to witness Jessica's departure and presumably to shame her for breaking up the family. "There she is," Mrs. Hayes announced dramatically. "The woman who's abandoning her husband and home over a small misunderstanding." "A small misunderstanding," Jessica said incredulously. "Your son is having an affair." "Men have needs," one of the neighbors said primly. "A wife's duty is to be understanding." "Then you marry him," Jessica said sweetly. "I'm sure he'd appreciate your understanding nature." The neighbor sputtered, offended. Louis appeared, his expression calculating. "Jessica, let's talk privately before you do something you'll regret." "I've spent 7 years doing things I regret," Jessica said. "Today, I'm finally doing something I won't." "You really think you can make it on your own? You have no job skills, no work history. Who's going to hire you?" "I'll figure it out." "And what about Barbara? What kind of life can you provide for her? Here she has a home, education, security. Here she has abuse, discrimination, and a father who forgot her birthday to sleep with his mistress." Several neighbors gasped. Mrs. Hayes' face turned purple with rage. "You're going to regret this," Louis shouted as Jessica headed for the door. "Karen Park is going to invest millions in my company. Wright Group has personally selected me as their premier partner. I'm about to become one of the most successful businessmen in Seoul. And you're throwing it all away." Jessica paused at the door, looking back one last time. "I hope you and Karen and Wright Group are very happy together. Truly. Because you deserve exactly what's coming." She walked out with Barbara, leaving behind 7 years of pain and a family that had never truly been hers. The Mercedes was waiting, Frank in the driver's seat looking concerned. "Miss Wright, I have a secure apartment prepared for you and Barbara. Top floor of a building we own, 24-hour security, completely furnished. Will that be satisfactory?" "It sounds perfect, Frank. Thank you. Also, your father would like to see you if you're willing. But there's no pressure. He understands if you need more time." Jessica looked at Barbara, who was watching Seoul's lights begin to flicker on as evening approached. Her daughter looked tired but peaceful, free from the constant tension of the Hayes household. "Let's get settled first," Jessica said. Then we'll see about my father. The apartment Frank had prepared was stunning, a penthouse with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Han River. It was elegant but comfortable, clearly designed with both Jessica and Barbara in mind. There was a princess-themed bedroom for Barbara that made her squeal with delight, and a master suite for Jessica that felt like a sanctuary. "Frank, this is too much," Jessica said, though she was already imagining waking up in this beautiful space without Mrs. Hayes' critical voice, without Lewis's indifference, without the constant weight of judgment and contempt. "It's exactly what you deserve, Miss Wright. Your mother designed many of Wright Group's luxury residential projects. She would have wanted you to have beauty and comfort in your life." After Frank left, Jessica and Barbara ordered pizza, ate it sitting on the floor like they were having a picnic, and watched the city lights sparkle below them. "Mommy, is this really ours?" Barbara asked, tomato sauce on her chin, happiness in her eyes. "Really ours," Jessica confirmed. "No one can take it away, and no one gets to tell us we don't deserve it. I like this better than the Hayes house." "Me too, baby. Me too." That night, after Barbara was asleep in her princess bed, Jessica stood at the window and looked out at Seoul. Somewhere out there, Lewis was probably with Karen, celebrating his supposed success and Jessica's departure. Somewhere, Mrs. Hayes was telling anyone who would listen about the ungrateful daughter-in-law who abandoned her family. And somewhere, Jessica's father was waiting, hoping for forgiveness he probably didn't deserve but desperately wanted. Tomorrow, Jessica would begin the process of officially taking control of Wright Group. Tomorrow, she would start dismantling Lewis Hayes' delusions of success. Tomorrow, she would prove to everyone who had underestimated her exactly what a mistake that had been. But tonight, she would simply stand here and breathe freely for the first time in 7 years. Tonight, she would remember who Jessica Wright had been before she became Jessica Hayes. And tomorrow the world would remember too. The transformation of Wright Group under Jessica's leadership began immediately, though no one outside the inner circle knew yet. She spent her first week as CEO attending video conferences from her apartment, meeting with department heads, and making strategic decisions that would reshape the company's future. Frank brought her up to speed on every aspect of the business. Wright Group controlled textile manufacturing across Asia, owned premium fashion brands, and had partnerships with every major luxury retailer globally. The company her mother had helped build, that her father had grown into an empire, was now hers to command. "What about the Hayes Company partnership?" Jessica asked during one meeting with the executive team. "The invitation Lewis Hayes received, is it still active?" "Yes," Frank confirmed. "As you requested, we've maintained the pretense that he was personally selected by the CEO. The bidding conference is scheduled for next month. All major partners will be attending." "Perfect. Make sure Lewis receives VIP treatment. I want him confident, comfortable, completely convinced of his success." "May I ask your strategy, Miss Wright?" Jessica smiled. "Have you ever watched someone build a house of cards? The higher it gets, the more spectacular the fall. I want Lewis Hayes' house of cards to reach the sky before I blow it down." The executive team exchanged impressed glances. Several of them had worked with Jessica's mother and saw glimpses of her strategic brilliance in her daughter. Meanwhile, Barbara was adjusting to their new life with surprising ease. She started at a prestigious international school where her intelligence and sweet nature quickly won over teachers and students alike. Jessica watched her daughter bloom without the constant criticism and comparison to Eric, becoming more confident, more joyful, more herself. "Mommy, I made 3 new friends today," Barbara announced one afternoon, backpack bouncing as she ran into the apartment. "And teacher said my English essay was the best in class." "That's wonderful, sweetheart. I'm so proud of you. Can they come over for a play date?" "Please." Jessica thought of the Hayes house, where Barbara had never been allowed to invite friends, where every request was met with criticism or refusal. Of course they can. This weekend. Barbara hugged her fiercely. Thank you, Mommy. You're the best mommy in the whole world. Later that week, Jessica finally agreed to visit her father. Frank drove them to a private estate on the outskirts of Seoul, a property Jessica vaguely remembered from her childhood before everything fell apart. Maxwell Wright was 68 now, though illness had aged him beyond his years. He sat in a wheelchair on a terrace overlooking gardens that Jessica's mother had designed 20 years ago, his face lighting up when he saw her. "Jessica," he said, his voice raspy with emotion. "You came." "I came," Jessica confirmed, keeping her distance. "This is Barbara, your granddaughter." Barbara, sensing the complicated emotions in the air, stayed close to her mother but offered a small wave. "Hello, grandfather." Maxwell's eyes filled with tears. "She looks like you at that age. Like your mother too. So beautiful. What do you want, father?" Jessica asked, not unkindly but not warmly either. "Frank said you wanted to see me. I wanted to apologize. I know it's years too late. I know nothing I say can undo the pain I caused you and your mother. But I need you to know that bringing Eleanor into our home while your mother was dying, that was the worst mistake of my life. I lost everything that mattered chasing something that meant nothing." "You lost my mother," Jessica said. "She died heartbroken because the man she loved for 30 years betrayed her when she needed him most. I know. I've lived with that knowledge every day since. Eleanor left me within a year, took half my fortune, and I barely cared because I realized too late what I'd destroyed. Your mother was everything, and I threw it away for vanity and stupidity. And me, your daughter. You never came looking for me after I married Louis. I was ashamed, and I thought you were happy. I had you investigated, but from the outside everything looked fine. I didn't realize until 5 years ago what was really happening in that house. By then, I thought you might hate me too much to accept help." "I did hate you," Jessica admitted. "Part of me still does. I understand. I deserve that and worse." Maxwell looked at Barbara, his expression softening. "But I hope you'll allow me to know my granddaughter. Not for my sake, though I would treasure any time you give me, but for hers. She has family beyond that horrible Hayes clan. She has a legacy, a history, people who will love her for exactly who she is." Jessica considered this. She had spent 7 years watching Barbara be rejected and diminished by paternal family. Perhaps it was time her daughter experienced what acceptance felt like. "We'll start slowly," Jessica said. "Short visits. And if Barbara ever feels uncomfortable or unwelcome, we stop immediately. Of course, whatever you're willing to give is more than I deserve." They spent an hour in carefully polite conversation, Maxwell asking about Barbara's school and interests, Barbara gradually warming up to this grandfather who seemed genuinely interested in her answers. As they were leaving, Maxwell called out, "Jessica, I'm proud of you. Taking over Wright Group, standing up to that family, protecting your daughter. Your mother would be proud too." Jessica nodded, not quite ready to say she was proud of him but willing to acknowledge he was trying. In the car, Barbara asked, "Is grandfather sick?" "Yes, baby. Very sick." "Will he die like Daddy's father?" "Eventually. We all do. That's why it's important to love people while we can and make good memories with them." "I think I like him," Barbara said thoughtfully. "He asked about my favorite books. Grandma Hayes never asked about my books." "I like him too," Jessica admitted. "Or at least, I like who he's trying to be now." Over the following weeks, Jessica carefully orchestrated her next moves. She cancelled Wright Group's partnership with Karen Park's family real estate ventures, causing Karen's promised investment in Lewis's company to evaporate. She had Frank leak information to strategic sources that Lewis Hayes' company was facing bankruptcy unless he secured major funding. And then she ensured Lewis received a personal invitation to Wright Group's exclusive bidding conference, where the new CEO would allegedly meet with potential partners. Louis took the bait magnificently. He called Jessica multiple times, calls she ignored, leaving increasingly desperate messages about needing to talk, about making mistakes about their daughter. Finally she answered. "Jessica, thank God. We need to talk about the divorce." "What about it?" "Maybe we were hasty. I've had time to think, and I realize I made some mistakes." "Some mistakes?" Jessica almost laughed. "Karen and I aren't together anymore. It was never serious. Just a business arrangement that didn't work out. I think we should try again for Barbara's sake." "For Barbara's sake, or because Karen's money fell through and you need someone to support you?" Silence on the other end, which was answer enough. "The divorce papers have been filed," Jessica said calmly. "You'll be served soon. I suggest you hire a lawyer." "Wait, Jessica, please. I can't afford a drawn-out legal battle right now. The company is struggling. Can't we settle this amicably?" "I offered amicable when I asked for Barbara and nothing else. You threatened to fight for custody, remember?" "I was angry. I didn't mean it. You can have custody. Just please don't ask for alimony or property division. I have nothing to give right now." "I don't want your money, Louis. I never did." "Then what do you want?" "I want you to be a better father than you've been. I want you to treat Barbara with respect and love. And I want you to finally face consequences for your choices." "What does that mean?" "You'll find out soon enough." Jessica ended the call. The next week, she took Barbara shopping for a formal dress. The bidding conference would be her first public appearance as Wright Group's CEO, and she wanted Barbara there to witness her mother reclaiming her power. "Why are we dressing up?" Barbara asked, twirling in a beautiful blue dress that made her look like a princess. "Because Mommy has to go to a very important business meeting, and I want you there with me." "Will I be in the way?" "Never. You are my strength, Barbara. When I look at you, I remember why everything I'm doing matters." They arrived at the bidding conference in a Wright Group limousine, security personnel flanking them. The venue was one of Seoul's most prestigious hotels, the ballroom filled with business leaders, investors, and hopeful companies seeking partnerships. Frank met them at the entrance. "Miss Wright, everything is prepared. Mr. Hayes is in the VIP section with his mother and brother. Karen Park attempted to enter but was turned away at security as you requested." "Good. And the arrangements for the reveal?" "All set. Whenever you're ready." Jessica took Barbara's hand. "Stay close to me, sweetheart. This might get a little dramatic." The VIP waiting area was luxurious, with comfortable seating and complimentary refreshments. Louis was there with Mrs. Hayes and Eric, all of them dressed in expensive clothes that Jessica suspected had been bought on credit. Louis saw her first, his eyes widening. "Jessica, what are you doing here?" "I could ask you the same thing." Mrs. Hayes turned, her expression immediately hostile. "This is a high-level business conference. It's not for housewives playing dress-up." "Grandma," Barbara said reproachfully. "That's not nice. Barbara, you brought that child here. This is inappropriate. Louis, do something." "Actually, I invited them," came a deep voice. Christian Harris approached, looking impeccable in a custom suit, his designer credentials giving him access anywhere in Wright Group's world. "You," Louis said coldly. "Jessica's boy toy." "Boy toy?" Christian laughed. "That's creative though inaccurate. I'm the chief designer for Wright Group and also an old family friend of the Wrights. I worked with Jessica's mother on several collections years ago." "Jessica's mother?" Mrs. Hayes looked confused. "Has she never mentioned her family?" Christian asked innocently. "How strange. Her family," Louis said. "Jessica's an orphan. She has no family." "Is that what she told you?" Christian's smile was wicked. Jessica, you've been keeping secrets. It never seemed relevant, Jessica said calmly. Louis never asked about my past, and I didn't think he'd care. Why would I care about your past? Louis said. You were a nobody when I married you. I gave you status, a home, a life. A life of servitude and abuse, Christian corrected. But that's ending now. Who do you think you are to talk to me this way? Louis demanded. I'm the person who's about to watch Jessica destroy you, Christian said cheerfully. And I've been waiting for this for years. Before Louis could respond, an announcement came over the speakers. All guests, please proceed to the main ballroom. The CEO of Right Group will address everyone shortly. They filed into the spectacular ballroom. Louis and his family directed to the front row where VIP partners were seated. Jessica and Barbara were escorted to a different section, where Christian kept them company. Are you nervous? He asked Jessica softly. Surprisingly, no. I'm ready. Your mother would be so proud. On stage, a video presentation began, showing Right Group's global empire, its influence, its power. The company's worth was displayed, its partnerships, its future plans. And then the screen went dark. Ladies and gentlemen, Frank's voice came through the speakers. It is my honor to introduce you to someone many of you have been waiting to meet. She is brilliant, compassionate, and more than ready to lead Right Group into its next era of success. Please welcome the new CEO, Miss Jessica Wright. The spotlight hit Jessica as she stood. There was a moment of confusion, whispers rippling through the crowd. And then she walked to the stage, Barbara's hand in hers, and the whispers became a wave of recognition. Louis sat frozen, his face draining of color. Mrs. Hayes' mouth hung open in shock. And Jessica took the microphone with the confidence of someone who had finally remembered who she was meant to be. Good evening. For those who don't know me, I am Jessica Wright, daughter of Maxwell Wright, heir to the Wright Group legacy. For the past 7 years, I've been living under a different name, in circumstances that many of you would find difficult to believe. But that chapter of my life is over. Today begins something new. She looked directly at Louis. Mr. Hayes, you've been telling everyone that Right Group specifically selected your company for partnership. That the CEO personally chose you. In a way, that's true. I did choose you, but perhaps not the way you thought. Louis stood shakily. Jessica, what is this? Some kind of joke. This is me taking back my power and protecting my daughter from people who never valued her, Jessica said clearly. This is me showing Barbara that women don't have to accept mistreatment, that we can be strong and successful and choose ourselves. You've been the Right Group CEO this whole time. Louis's voice was hoarse. Since the day after you asked me to pick you up from your hotel room tryst. The day I realized I was done sacrificing myself for a family that never cared about me. Mrs. Hayes stood, pointing a shaking finger. You deceived us. You made us think you were nobody. I never said I was nobody. You assumed it. You decided I was worthless because I chose to be a wife and mother instead of flaunting my family's wealth. And you treated me accordingly. The audience was completely silent, watching the drama unfold. As for partnerships, Jessica continued, Right Group will no longer be working with Hayes Corporation. Your invitation is revoked. I also want to announce that anyone who chooses to do business with Karen Park or her family will not be considered for Right Group partnerships in the future. We don't associate with those who lack ethical standards. She saw Karen in the back, having somehow snuck past security, her face pale with fury. This is personal vendetta, Louis shouted. You can't destroy my company because I hurt your feelings. I'm not destroying your company, Louis. You did that yourself with poor management and worse decisions. I'm simply declining to save it. There's a difference. I'm your daughter's father. You would make Barbara fatherless out of spite. Jessica's expression hardened. You made yourself irrelevant as a father long before I became CEO. Barbara has me, she has her grandfather, she has people who actually love her. She doesn't need someone who forgot her birthday to sleep with his mistress. Barbara, standing beside Jessica on stage, spoke into the microphone with the clear voice of a child who had found her confidence. I don't need a daddy who doesn't love me. I need a mommy who does. And I have her. The audience burst into applause. Jessica pulled Barbara close, kissing her forehead. So, Mr. Hayes, I offer you the same choice I offered before. You can accept a position at Right Group as entry-level security personnel at $3,000 monthly, which is more than you deserve, or you can take your chances with bankruptcy. Choose wisely. Lewis stared at her, realization dawning that he had lost everything through his own arrogance and cruelty. His company was failing, Karen had abandoned him, and the woman he had treated as worthless was actually one of the most powerful people in the country. I won't accept charity from you, he said with false pride. Then accept consequences from yourself, Jessica replied. Security, please escort Mr. Hayes and his family out. And please ensure they don't enter any Right Group properties in the future without explicit permission. As security moved forward, Mrs. Hayes began screaming about unfairness and ingratitude. Eric started crying. Lewis stood there looking broken, the reality of his situation finally penetrating his denial. But Jessica felt no satisfaction in their pain, only relief that this chapter was finally, completely, definitively closed. After they were removed, she addressed the stunned audience. Now let's discuss actual partnerships. Right Group is seeking companies with ethical practices, innovative thinking, and genuine commitment to quality. If that describes you, we should talk. The rest of the conference proceeded smoothly, with dozens of companies eager to meet with the new CEO. Jessica handled each interaction with grace and intelligence, Barbara by her side, proof that women could be powerful and maternal, successful and loving, strong and compassionate all at once. Later that night, back in their apartment, Barbara asked, Mommy, was it wrong what we did to Daddy? Jessica chose her words carefully. Sweetheart, I gave your father many chances to treat us well. I begged him to be kinder, to value you, to remember we were family. He chose to ignore all that. What happened today wasn't revenge. It was simply allowing him to face the natural results of his choices. He looked sad. I know. And it's okay to feel sorry for him. You have a good heart, Barbara. But feeling sorry doesn't mean we accept abuse or go back to a situation that hurt us. We can wish him well from a distance while protecting ourselves. I wish he had been a better daddy. I wish that too, baby. But we can't control other people's choices, only our own. And we choose to love ourselves and each other. Barbara nodded seriously. I choose us too, Mommy. Over the following months, Jessica proved herself as CEO beyond anyone's expectations. Right Group's profits soared under her leadership. She implemented ethical manufacturing practices, supported female designers and executives, and turned the company into not just a financial success but a moral one. She eventually allowed Lewis supervised visits with Barbara, though he rarely took advantage of them. Seeing Jessica's success made him uncomfortable, and Barbara's growing confidence and happiness seemed to highlight his own failures as a parent. Mrs. Hayes attempted to contact Jessica multiple times, claiming she wanted to apologize, but it was clear she was actually desperate for financial assistance. Jessica sent her a check for $10,000 with a note. This is for the years I lived in your home. Consider us even. Please don't contact me again. Christian became a close friend and eventually more, though they took things slowly for Barbara's sake. He was patient, kind, respectful of Jessica's journey toward trusting men again. Maxwell Wright lived long enough to see his daughter flourish and to build a genuine relationship with Barbara. When he died, 18 months after they reunited, Jessica was able to cry for him with forgiveness in her heart. Not forgetting the pain he had caused, but acknowledging his genuine efforts to make amends. 3 years after that dramatic bidding conference, Jessica stood in Wright Group's headquarters with Barbara, now 9 years old and already showing signs of her mother's intelligence and compassion. "Mommy, when I grow up, can I work here too?" Barbara asked, looking around at the bustling offices. "You can do anything you want, sweetheart. Work here, do something else entirely, whatever makes you happy. That's what matters." "Did you always know you wanted to run a company?" Jessica thought about this. "No. When I was young, I just wanted to be loved and valued. Took me a long time to realize I could create my own value, that I didn't need someone else to give me worth. I already had it." "I have worth too," Barbara said confidently. "You do. Always remember that." They looked out at Seoul spreading below them, full of possibility and promise. Jessica thought about the woman she had been 7 years ago, frightened and diminished, accepting crumbs of affection and calling it love. That woman seemed like a stranger now. She had learned that true strength wasn't enduring abuse. It was having the courage to leave. She had learned that loving yourself wasn't selfish. It was essential. She had learned that sometimes the family you create matters more than the one you're born into. And most importantly, she had learned that she was never the worthless, burdensome woman the Hayes family had made her feel like. She was Jessica Wright, powerful, capable, deserving of respect and love. And that knowledge had changed everything. "Come on," Jessica said to Barbara. "Let's go home." "Our home?" Barbara asked just to be sure. "Our home," Jessica confirmed. "Where we are safe and loved and valued exactly as we are." They left the office hand in hand, mother and daughter, both survivors, both victorious in the ways that truly mattered. And behind them, Seoul glittered with infinite possibilities, waiting for whatever they would build next.